guys have got a real goofy father.
You cut that out, Eddie. You really will be getting it across a puss.
And it won't be from your father, either.
Don't put any mayonnaise on mine, Mrs. Cleaver. My mom says I'm allergic to it.
Well, I'll try to remember that, Eddie.
Leave It to Beaver was the shining symbol of a standardized 1950s America, where every home was spotless and every childhood mistake was resolved with a gentle moral lesson. Behind the square frames and radiant smiles of the Cleaver family lay a completely different reality that producers spent decades trying to hide. The truth behind the town of Mayfield was far more chaotic than its pristine appearance suggested. We will uncover the dark corners that audiences of that era were never permitted to see on television.
Eddie, I'm afraid you're going to have to go home now. Beaver has to take a bath. And then, honey, I want you to put on your best suit. You've been invited over to the Donaldsons. Smell quite nice, too.
Oh, that's my aftershave lotion.
Why, Eddie, do you shave?
No, but I like to smell like I do.
Behind the polished exterior of America's mother, June Cleaver, was a persistent struggle against strict standards from the network and producers. Barbara Billingsley was forced to wear high heels even while doing housework, not for fashion, but to maintain her status as the family leader as her two sons grew too quickly. Starting from the first seasons in 1957, the height difference between her and the child actors became a difficult puzzle for camera angles. Her famous pearl necklaces were also a tool of deception, used to hide a blemish following a medical procedure on her neck, preventing the image of the flawless woman from shattering in the public eye. In a rare interview with the New York Times, Barbara once shared the constraints of her role. In scenes where June had to be angry with the boys, I would often go to the writers to protest the script. I did not understand why June could be so angry over such small mistakes Beaver made. Her empathy for the children frequently clashed with the rigid rules of the production team, who insisted on maintaining absolute moral standards on screen. This unintentionally created a psychological barrier between real life and the role, causing the line between a real mother and a cultural icon to blur. Meanwhile, the father, Ward Cleaver, played by Hugh Beaumont, was an ordained minister before beginning his career in the arts in 1957. He originally accepted the role of Ward Cleaver only to ensure financial stability for his family, but this decision led to an unforgettable tragedy. While traveling from Minnesota to Los Angeles for filming, his family was involved in a serious traffic accident. This event resulted in the passing of his mother-in-law, leaving Hugh to live with the guilt that his Hollywood job had indirectly caused this great loss. Hugh Beaumont's career was subsequently pigeonholed into the image of the model father, leaving him feeling completely trapped. His son, Hunter Beaumont, once shared that his father felt limited by the overwhelming fame of Leave It to Beaver. Although he always gave wise advice on the show in real life, Hugh struggled with personal pain and the disappointment of being unable to pursue more complex roles. Producer Joe Connolly admitted they exploited the real-life traits of the cast for the scripts, making the actors feel as though their private lives were being stolen for commercial purposes. Every tiny detail in the Cleaver home in Mayfield was arranged to deceive the eyes of millions of American viewers. The silent sacrifice of the older actors created a solid foundation for the success of the show throughout its 6 seasons. They had to cast aside personal tragedies and physical imperfections to play saints in a cathedral of fake perfection. Behind the innocent smiles on screen was a strict system of psychological control, where every step taken by the Cleaver brothers was molded by the iron will of those behind the scenes. The real world of these child stars gradually became a prison without bars, as they were deprived of the right to recognize their own achievements to maintain a forced humility. The moral lessons Beaver learned after each episode became strangely contradictory to the way Hollywood operated, pushing the children into a journey full of loneliness and psychological ghosts that lasted for decades. The price of fame. Jerry Mathers, the boy who played Beaver, entered the world of cinema through a situation that seemed to belong in a script. In 1957, when he appeared at the audition in his Cub Scout uniform, he frankly stated that he would rather attend his troop meeting than stay to audition. This strange innocence immediately convinced producers Joe Connolly and Bob Mosher, as they believed they had found a child untainted by Hollywood acting techniques. This instinctive start opened a journey of strict psychological monitoring, where fame was treated like a toxin that needed to be quarantined. To maintain absolute humility for the child actors, producers issued an odd requirement. Jerry Mathers and Tony Dow were forbidden from watching their own show on television. The purpose of this ban was to prevent the boys from becoming conceited or developing an oversized ego from public praise. In a later interview, Tony Dow recalled that pressure with a pensive tone. The producers, who were also the writers, asked us not to watch the show. They did not want us to get a big head. This created a bitter paradox where the children at the center of a cultural phenomenon were completely in the dark about their own work, living in a vacuum created by adults. When Leave It to Beaver ended in 1963, the brilliant aura did not bring peace. Instead, it brought cruel consequences from public fabrications. A malicious rumor began to spread across America in the late 1960s, claiming that Jerry Mathers had died in action in the Vietnam War. This rumor was so horrific that the Mathers family constantly received condolence calls from strangers, and his mother even suffered panic attacks upon hearing the cries of grief over the phone. In reality, Jerry was serving in the Air Force Reserve within the United States and had never left the country. In a later conversation, he humorously recalled a bittersweet memory. A friend woke me up in the morning and asked, "Do you know you're dead?" while showing me a newspaper that listed my name among those who had fallen. Tragedy did not stop at false rumors. It also sank deep into the mental health of those involved. Tony Dow, the perfect on-screen brother Wally, struggled with severe depression for decades after leaving Mayfield. He admitted that the pressure to maintain the image of a model teenager made him feel deprived of the right to make mistakes. His struggle is the clearest evidence of how Hollywood exhausted the labor and spirit of child actors, and then left them to fend for themselves in the wreckage of fame. The pressure to be perfect on television created unhealable psychological scars, making the child actors feel out of place when returning to real life. They were not only pigeonholed by their roles, but also deprived of the opportunity to develop an independent personality, leading to silent rebellions or total withdrawal from the public. Lives pigeonholed. Ken Osmond, who played the famous flatterer Eddie Haskell, became a classic victim of the harsh character pigeonholing phenomenon in Hollywood. After the show ended in 1963, he realized the image of a sycophantic teenager who praised adults but bullied peers was so deeply etched in directors' minds that no one dared to give him another role. This career dead end pushed Ken into financial hardship, forcing him to make a bold pivot for survival. Instead of continuing to seek an illusory spotlight, he applied to the Los Angeles Police Department in 1970 and began a completely new life in uniform. To avoid being recognized by the public and criminals as the Eddie Haskell of years past, Ken Osmond had to grow a thick beard to hide his true identity. During his years on duty in narcotics units and motorcycle patrols, he faced real dangers that no film script could ever fully describe. In an interview with People magazine, Ken once shared this difficult choice. "I tried to find acting work for years, but it was hopeless. Everyone just saw Eddie when I walked into the audition room. Becoming a cop was the only way for me to have a real life." His courage was tested to the limit in 1980 when he was struck by 3 bullets from a car theft suspect, narrowly escaping death thanks to his bulletproof vest. Contrasting with Ken Osmond's transformation into a real-life hero, Frank Bank, who played Clarence "Lumpy" Rutherford, chose a lifestyle that shocked the public after leaving the screen. After appearing in 50 episodes of the original series and the later reboot, Frank decided to move into finance and became a prominent stockbroker in Hollywood. The real secret lay in his libertine private life, which was the complete opposite of the dim-witted and clumsy appearance of the Lumpy character. In his autobiography titled Call Me Lumpy, My Leave It to Beaver Days and Other Wild Hollywood Life, published in 1997, Frank stunned fans by exposing the dark corners of his personal life. In those raw pages, Frank claimed he had romantic relationships with over 1,000 women during his youth. This was a heavy blow to audiences who still worshipped the traditional moral values the show portrayed. Frank wrote in his book with incredible self-satisfaction, "I am not the clumsy lumpy everyone saw on TV. In real life, I live the way I want, regardless of whether it shatters the image they built for me." This admission was not just a declaration of personal freedom, but a sarcastic rebellion against the fake standards of Mayfield, where every action had to fit within a strict moral framework. The ironic truths about the lives of Ken and Frank exposed a harsh reality. Behind the gentle characters on screen were people longing to escape the chains of their roles. They had to choose extreme ways to assert their personal identities, whether by facing a criminal's gun or by completely shattering public moral standards. The contradiction between the real person and the scripted character created an unbridgeable gap in the hearts of the American public. These internal conflicts and the fracturing of their images led to cruel purging decisions within the production machinery to protect the show's fake purity. The Purge at Mayfield. The sudden disappearance of Larry Mondello, the best friend who always joined Beaver in mischievous pranks, is one of the greatest mysteries that producers tried to gloss over with vague script reasons. Rusty Stevens, the child actor who played Larry, appeared in nearly 70 episodes and became an essential part of the work before completely vanishing in 1960. While audiences were told the Mondello family moved to Philadelphia for the father's job, the truth behind the scenes carried a much crueler tone involving excessive parental interference. This harsh truth was only finally brought to light decades later through the candid accounts of those who were present behind the scenes. In an intimate and revealing conversation recorded in 2000, Barbara Billingsley did not hesitate to identify the specific reason why Rusty Stevens' burgeoning career was abruptly strangled at its most brilliant and promising moment. She revealed with a regretful tone, "We all loved Rusty very much. The boy was truly excellent in that role. But unfortunately, the producers were forced to let him go because his mother was such a pain." According to crew members of that era, Rusty's mother constantly appeared in executive offices to make unreasonable demands, putting pressure on the workflow and creating unnecessary tension on set. The Rusty Stevens incident evolved into a deeply heartbreaking and cautionary example of a vulnerable child forced to suffer the severe consequences of adult mistakes within the cutthroat environment of the entertainment industry. Rather than attempting to resolve these external conflicts through constructive dialogue or professional mediation, Universal executives opted for a cold and silent purge to safeguard production schedules and preserve the carefully manufactured stability of the Cleaver family image. In an article in the Los Angeles Times, cultural analysts noted that Hollywood at that time had no room for off-script troubles. Every distracting element had to be removed to keep the machine running smoothly. Rusty Stevens, a promising star, was pushed out of the spotlight overnight, leaving a large hole in the hearts of fans who loved the clumsy but sincere boy. The cruelty and personnel decisions did not stop with child actors. It happened even when the project was still on paper with the lead roles. Before Hugh Beaumont became the symbol of the model father, actor Max Showalter had been cast as Ward Cleaver in the pilot episode titled "It's a Small World" in early 1957. After reviewing the first footage, executives ordered Max's immediate replacement simply because he looked too cheerful and lacked the necessary sternness of a father who could discipline stubborn children. Max Showalter was quickly crossed off the list, making way for the calm phase and authoritative voice of Hugh Beaumont, who later suffered his own private personal tragedies because of this very role. These underground purges helped producers maintain complete control over the message, ensuring that no individual could disturb the ideal image of Mayfield. Every effort to adjust personnel served the ultimate purpose of maintaining the trust of sponsors and the expectations of a public wanting a society without blemishes. In that tight control, core human values were challenged by rigid moral regulations and the sensitivity of the era. Breaking the barriers. Leave It to Beaver was nearly banned and faced intense censorship because of a detail we consider obvious in every household today: the toilet. In the episode titled "The Alligator," aired in 1957, the script required the two brothers, Beaver and Wally, to secretly raise a small alligator in the water tank behind the toilet. television moral standards of that era were extremely radical, viewing any image related to the bathroom as unacceptable indecency on national airwaves. Producers had to endure a fierce debate with censors to keep the scene, leading to a historic compromise. They were allowed to film the toilet tank but were strictly forbidden from showing the seat. This compromise was a victory for content and turned Leave It to Beaver into the first television program in history to dare show a part of the toilet on the small screen. This event created a wave of discussion about the boundaries of realism on television, opening the way for changes in broadcasting standards in Hollywood over the following decades. An editor for Variety once remarked that daring to put a common but sensitive item into the film proved the crew's effort to reflect the real lives of children, despite strict barriers from conservative networks. Besides censorship disputes, production costs were also a secret that management worked hard to hide to maintain the image of a frugal and simple middle-class family. The episode titled The Soup, aired in 1958, became one of the most expensive milestones of the entire series, as it required a highly complex set. To film the scene where Beaver climbs a giant billboard and falls into a steaming bowl of soup, Universal had to spend a massive budget to build the soup bowl model and an artificial smoke system on set. This was considered a risky investment at the time, as the cost for one short scene was equivalent to the production budget of an entire regular episode. Jerry Mathers recalled this memorable experience with pride in the crew's boldness. That was one of the most difficult scenes I ever performed, but the producers believed it would become iconic. Reality proved them right, as the image of Little Beaver lost in a giant soup bowl became one of the classic moments of American television, even being simulated by many modern entertainment shows. Behind that success was financial pressure on the producers, forcing them to constantly reuse extras and old sets in later episodes to balance the budget. A meticulous economic calculation hidden behind the glamour of Mayfield. These efforts to break barriers and the heavy investment helped the show last longer than any rival of its time, turning it into an unshakable cultural monument. When looking back at the entire 6-year journey, we see a much more complex picture than what was broadcast. The values the Cleaver family represented were the result of a constant struggle between artistic creativity and rigid social norms. Each episode contains not just lessons for children, but evidence of the calculating operation of an entertainment industry machine trying to reshape the American dream. Leave It to Beaver was a cultural experiment in building an ideal society in the American imagination. The behind-the-scenes truths of personal tragedies, strict censorship, and cruel personnel changes showed the extremely high price of maintaining that perfection. Although these secrets may change how you view the Cleaver family, the influence of the show on television history cannot be denied. If you found this video interesting, please hit like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next fascinating stories about Hollywood history. Thank you for watching, and see you again in our upcoming journeys to discover the hidden corners of cinema.